Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Pepper Revenge. This channel is all about crazy true stories, stuff that happens in real life when things get a little bit messy, people dealing with drama, cheating, lies, breakups, and even revenge. Some stories are wild, some are emotional, but all of them will keep you watching. If you like real talk and real situations, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around. This is Crazy Pepper Revenge, where the stories get spicy.
You ever watch someone execute what they think is a flawless strategy, completely confident it'll work exactly as planned, while you've been observing their entire setup for weeks? That's precisely what went down when my wife took advice from her divorce attorney best friend about requesting space to send me spiraling so I'd transform into her perfect partner. The irony is rich when you consider her friend literally earns a living from marriages that fall apart, and she was about to add one more to her professional statistics. It was a Tuesday evening in mid-September when Vanessa walked into our Pacific Heights apartment with this rehearsed confidence that immediately set off alarms. I was sitting at the kitchen table going through quarterly financial reports from work, and the numbers actually looked phenomenal. Better than I'd projected, which had me in an unusually good mood. My briefcase sat on the counter behind me containing the transfer approval letter I'd been reviewing that morning, wrestling with a decision I'd been debating for the past week. Then she entered with this energy that completely shifted the atmosphere. It was the kind of entrance you make when you've been practicing your delivery in the mirror. She sat down across from me, folded her hands on the table with deliberate care, took one of those dramatic deep breaths you see in therapy scenes, and delivered her prepared statement with a pause that would impress a theater director. I think we need to take a break, some time apart so we can both evaluate what we really want from this relationship. Most guys in that position would probably start panicking immediately, asking what they did wrong, begging for clarity, promising to fix everything overnight. But here's the thing. I'd been anticipating this exact moment for 3 solid weeks. See, her best friend Olivia Brennan isn't exactly subtle when she's running people through her manipulation playbook. 3 weeks prior, I was supposed to be at the gym for my regular Tuesday evening workout when Olivia came over for one of their wine and strategy sessions. I'd forgotten my wallet and circled back to grab it from the apartment. I went straight to my home office to check if I'd left it on my desk. The door was slightly ajar, and that's when I heard Olivia's voice projecting clearly from the living room through her phone speaker, that confident attorney tone she uses when she thinks she's being clever. "Just call it a break and watch him completely fall apart," Olivia had announced with absolute certainty. "Men like Marcus need to feel indispensable. Remove that security, and he'll be desperately trying to prove himself worthy of you. Trust the process." Vanessa's voice had wavered with uncertainty. "But what if he just accepts it and agrees?" "He won't," Olivia had laughed dismissively. "His entire identity is wrapped up in being the stable, reliable husband. Threaten that foundation and watch the transformation happen right before your eyes. When he's panicking and offering you everything, you'll have complete control of the relationship dynamic. Then you can basically train him to become the husband you actually deserve." I'd already been holding my phone, scrolling through work emails while standing there. I quietly opened the voice recording app and hit record, capturing the entire conversation. Every manipulative tactic, every psychological pressure point they were planning to exploit, every step of their strategy, I documented all of it. Then I went to the gym anyway, came home later acting completely normal, and started giving serious consideration to that Seattle opportunity I'd been mulling over for 2 months. So when Vanessa delivered her carefully rehearsed line that Tuesday evening, I simply looked up from my financial reports, nodded slowly, and said something she clearly wasn't expecting at all. "Finally! Perfect timing, actually." She blinked hard. The confidence flickered and started crumbling. This response definitely wasn't in Olivia's carefully crafted script. "What do you mean, finally?" Her voice already had a noticeable crack forming. I reached behind me to the counter and grabbed the document from my briefcase. The letterhead from our corporate headquarters was clearly visible, even from across the table where she sat. "Well, I've been seriously considering this transfer opportunity to Seattle for about 4 months now," I said, keeping my tone conversational and matter-of-fact. "Regional Director of Financial Analytics, 40% salary increase, comprehensive relocation package, corporate housing provided for the first 60 days while I locate a permanent residence." I slid the approval letter across the table toward her. Watching her face transform from confident to confused to something approaching genuine panic was quite the experience. You applied for a transfer? She stammered over the words, struggling to process what she was reading. 3 months ago, actually, received the formal approval last week. I leaned back in my chair, completely calm and relaxed. I've been debating whether to accept it or not. Didn't want to uproot our entire life here in San Francisco. We've built something substantial together, or at least I thought we had. The color was visibly draining from her face now. This was absolutely not how Olivia had promised things would unfold. But if you genuinely want space to evaluate what you really want from our relationship, I continued smoothly, well, that makes my decision remarkably straightforward, doesn't it? You'll have all the space you need to think clearly, and I'll be starting fresh in Seattle with a career opportunity I've been working toward for years. But I didn't mean... She started backpedaling immediately, panic rising in her voice. You didn't mean what, exactly? I asked calmly. You just clearly stated you want a break. Time apart to figure things out. I'm giving you precisely what you requested. Actually, I'm making it even better for you. You'll have complete independence and all the space you could possibly need, and I'll be building an exciting new chapter in Seattle with the position I've dreamed about. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. The rehearsed script was completely gone now, replaced by genuine confusion and mounting fear. This isn't what I meant when I said break. Really? Because it sounded exceptionally clear to me. You want space, time apart to figure out what you want from life. Seattle provides us with plenty of both. I gathered up my papers, including the transfer approval letter. Actually, this works out significantly better than I'd anticipated. I was genuinely worried about asking you to relocate across the country, but now I don't have to deal with that difficult conversation at all. You can't just leave, she said, and now there was unmistakable panic in her voice. Why not? I looked at her directly. You just told me you want a break from our marriage. I'm not abandoning you. I'm respecting your clearly stated wishes while simultaneously pursuing an incredible professional opportunity. It's genuinely a win-win situation when you actually think about it logically. I stood up and headed toward the kitchen to grab a bottle of water from the refrigerator. The casual, unhurried movement seemed to unsettle her even more than my actual words had. Oh, and don't worry about the timeline, I added casually. They want me to start in 4 weeks. That gives us plenty of time to work out all the logistics. Whether you're planning to come with me, staying here in San Francisco for your break to think things through, or we're dividing our belongings down the middle for separate households. 4 weeks? Her voice cracked completely. That's so soon. Yep, fast-track program for experienced candidates with proven track records. They're covering all moving expenses and providing temporary housing until I find a permanent place I like. I took a drink of water and looked at her calmly. You should probably call Olivia and thank her for the brilliant advice. Without her ingenious idea about taking a break, I might have actually turned down this life-changing opportunity out of consideration for our relationship. The look on her face was absolutely priceless. The confident woman who had walked in ready to execute a manipulation strategy was completely gone, replaced by someone who was clearly realizing she'd just spectacularly played herself. I need to think about all of this, she said weakly, her voice barely above a whisper. Of course you do. That's exactly what breaks are designed for, right? Thinking things through clearly. I headed toward the stairs. I'll be upstairs making some important calls. Seattle wants a final confirmation by tomorrow morning, and thanks to your incredibly convenient timing, I know exactly what to tell them. As I walked away, I could hear her frantically dialing her phone behind me. I didn't need to guess who she was calling in that moment. Olivia's brilliant strategy had just backfired spectacularly, and they both absolutely knew it. The following morning, I woke up to the sound of hushed, frantic whispering coming from downstairs. It was 7 o'clock in the morning, and Vanessa was already on the phone, which meant one thing. Damage control mode was in full effect. I made my coffee methodically and headed to my home office. I had 3 calls scheduled with Seattle HR to discuss comprehensive relocation details, and I wanted to get started early. The promotion was completely legitimate. The opportunity was real, and her little manipulation stunt had just made my decision incredibly easy. Around 9 o'clock, she appeared in my office doorway with that fake casual attitude people use when they're trying to seem nonchalant, but are actually freaking out inside. So I talked to Olivia last night for a while, she started tentatively. Oh, the one who's been coaching you extensively on relationship psychology for the past month? I didn't look up from my laptop where I was reviewing the Seattle organizational chart and reporting structure. She froze completely. What do you mean, coaching me? Please. I finally looked at her directly. You think I didn't notice the sudden personality changes? The strategic timing of conversations, the rehearsed delivery patterns? I leaned back in my chair. I've been married to you for 7 years. I know when you're being authentically yourself and when you're following someone else's carefully written script. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly. You knew? I've known for 3 weeks now. I overheard that entire phone conversation where Olivia was explaining her strategy for how to regain control of our marriage by making me chase you desperately. I kept my voice level and matter-of-fact. Honestly, I was curious to see how far you'd actually take it, whether you'd really go through with the whole plan. The color drained from her face completely. So you were just waiting, watching me? I was carefully considering my options. The Seattle transfer was already on the table as a possibility. I just hadn't decided whether it was worth disrupting our established life here. I shrugged. Turns out you made that decision for me by following through with Olivia's manipulation tactics. She sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk, looking defeated. This isn't how this was supposed to go at all. No kidding. Let me guess what Olivia's script predicted. I started ticking off points on my fingers. I was supposed to panic immediately, beg you to reconsider the break, promise to change everything about myself, maybe throw in some expensive jewelry or plan a romantic vacation to win you back and prove my devotion. She didn't answer, but her facial expression said absolutely everything I needed to know. Here's the fundamental thing about manipulation tactics, I continued. They only work effectively on people who don't see them coming. Once you know someone's actively trying to play you, the entire game changes completely. My phone rang right on schedule. Seattle HR calling. Excuse me, I need to take this important call. I answered with professional enthusiasm. Good morning, this is Marcus Bennett. Yes, absolutely, I'm ready to move forward with the formal acceptance. I watched her face crumble as I confirmed start dates, discussed housing arrangements in the Queen Anne neighborhood, and finalized comprehensive salary details. This wasn't a bluff or an empty threat. This was me actively building an entirely new life, and she was watching it happen in real time, right before her eyes. When I hung up the call, she was staring at me with a mixture of shock and desperation. You just accepted it? You actually accepted the job transfer? Why wouldn't I? It's an incredible opportunity, a genuine fresh start, and apparently my wife wants space to figure herself out. Seems like absolutely perfect timing all around. But what about us? What about our marriage? What about it? I started typing notes from the call into my laptop. You said you wanted a break. I'm giving you exactly what you explicitly asked for. I paused and looked at her directly. Actually, I should thank you sincerely. Without this conversation, I might have let this opportunity pass by out of consideration for you and our relationship. She was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling. What if I changed my mind? What if I said I didn't want the break anymore? I stopped typing and looked at her directly. You mean, what if you realized your manipulation strategy backfired, and now you wanted to regain control of the situation again? That's not... I wasn't trying to manipulate you. Really? So Olivia didn't specifically tell you to announce a break and watch me panic? She didn't coach you extensively on how to make me desperate to keep you? I raised an eyebrow, because I heard that entire conversation word for word on my phone. She slumped in her chair, caught completely and unable to deny it. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my tone matter-of-fact. I'm taking the Seattle position. It's an incredible opportunity that I've worked years to earn through countless 60-hour weeks. You can decide what you want to do. Come with me and actually be a genuinely supportive partner, or stay here in San Francisco and enjoy the break you specifically requested. Those are your available options. Those aren't really choices, she said quietly. Sure they are. But here's the fundamental thing you need to understand. I'm done with games. I'm done with tests. I'm done with following scripts written by people who think relationships are about power plays and psychological manipulation. My phone buzzed with a text message, a moving company wanting to schedule an estimate appointment. I've got the first moving company coming Thursday afternoon for a comprehensive walkthrough. Second company coming Friday morning for comparison quotes. If you want to be part of this move, you need to decide right now. Not after more conversations with Olivia. Not after more strategic planning sessions. Right now, in this moment. She stared at me like she was seeing a completely different person. You're serious? You're actually doing this? Dead serious. I've spent too many years building my career to let relationship games derail an opportunity like this. I stood up. Olivia's advice cost you the chance to be in control of the situation. Now you get to decide if it cost you your marriage too. I headed for the door, then paused and turned back. Oh, and when you talk to her today, and we both know you absolutely will, tell her that manipulation tactics work both ways. The difference is mine actually succeeded. By Thursday afternoon, the first moving company had finished their detailed walkthrough, and I had their comprehensive estimate in my inbox. Boxes were ordered and would arrive Friday morning. I had a detailed timeline taking shape for my complete relocation. Vanessa, meanwhile, had gone through what I can only describe as the 5 stages of manipulation grief, playing out in real time. First came denial. She spent Tuesday evening and all of Wednesday acting like nothing had fundamentally changed, making dinner, trying to initiate normal conversations about weekend plans and trivial matters. When I reminded her Wednesday night that we needed to make decisions about what furniture was staying versus going to Seattle, reality started hitting hard. Thursday morning brought the anger stage. You can't just uproot our entire life because of one conversation, she yelled while I was in the bedroom, methodically sorting clothes into organized piles. I'm not uprooting our life, I replied calmly, placing dress shirts into a box clearly labeled Seattle work clothes. I'm accepting a promotion that represents years of dedicated hard work and professional development. You're the one who wanted space to think about things. That's not what I meant by that. Then you should have said what you actually meant, instead of following a script from someone who literally makes money off destroyed marriages. She didn't have any response to that observation. By Thursday afternoon, the movers arrived precisely on schedule. 2 professional guys with clipboards walking through our apartment systematically, taking detailed inventory, asking specific questions about timeline and final destination. Vanessa followed us from room to room, getting increasingly desperate as the reality became increasingly concrete. When we reached the bedroom, one of the movers asked a straightforward question. Will both of you be there for delivery in Seattle? I glanced at Vanessa, then back at the mover. I'll definitely be there for the delivery, still confirming whether it's one household or if we need to split the inventory into 2 separate deliveries for different addresses. The mover nodded professionally and made a note on his clipboard. Vanessa's face went pale. Having complete strangers witness the uncertainty of her marriage was apparently more real than any conversation we'd had privately. After the movers left with their detailed measurements and promised to email their estimate by end of day, Vanessa finally broke down emotionally. You can't just blow up our entire life over one conversation. I was in the living room now, beginning to sort books into organized piles. When I'm not blowing up anything, I'm accepting a promotion I've legitimately earned through years of work. You're the one who said you wanted space to think about what you really want. This is completely insane. I looked up from the bookshelf. No, what's insane is following advice from someone who profits directly off destroyed marriages instead of having a single honest conversation with your husband. Before she could formulate a response, the doorbell rang. We both knew exactly who it was. Vanessa went to answer it, and moments later, Olivia walked in like she owned the place, radiating that supremely confident attorney energy she's known for. Marcus, we need to talk about this extreme overreaction, she announced. I set down the book I was holding and turned to face her directly. Overreaction? I'm accepting a career opportunity. That's called making intelligent life decisions. You're throwing away your marriage because Vanessa wanted to feel more appreciated, Olivia crossed her arms defensively. You've been emotionally distant for months. She just wanted some acknowledgement and validation. This nuclear response proves you're not mature enough to handle marriage. I almost laughed out loud. Let me stop you right there before you continue. I overheard the entire coaching session 3 weeks ago when you came over. Olivia's confidence flickered just slightly, but I definitely saw it. The one where you told my wife to manipulate me into desperation, I continued calmly. The one where you specifically said men like me need to feel needed, and watching me fall apart would give her power in the relationship. That particular coaching session. Olivia's face transitioned from confident to cautious. I was just trying to help her. You're a divorce attorney. I cut her off. You make your entire living when marriages fail, and you've been actively coaching my wife on psychological manipulation tactics. I shook my head. That's not friendship, that's sabotage with a smile. I was trying to help her feel appreciated teaching her to by teaching her to lie and manipulate instead of having an honest conversation. That's your professional definition of help? Vanessa had gone completely silent, watching this exchange with growing horror. Here's what you didn't count on, I said, my voice calm but absolutely firm. I don't respond well to manipulation attempts. I don't play games, and I definitely don't reward people who try to control me through psychological tactics. Marcus, please, Vanessa tried to interject weakly. There's nothing to discuss here, I said, turning back to my books. I'm taking a job I've earned through 7 years of 60-hour work weeks. You wanted space, now you have it. Olivia's strategy backfired completely. End of story. Olivia tried one more angle. What about forgiveness? What about working through problems together, like adults? I am being forgiving, I said evenly. I'm not contesting any joint assets. I'm not demanding anything beyond a fair division of property. I'm being remarkably civil about this entire situation. I looked directly at Olivia. But forgiveness doesn't mean accepting manipulation as normal, acceptable behavior. And here's something else you should know. I recorded that coaching session on my phone. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state, which means that recording is perfectly legal and admissible. Olivia's face went completely white. You wouldn't dare. Try me. If you contact my employer, if you try to interfere with my career in any way whatsoever, that recording goes directly to the Massachusetts Bar Association. I'm absolutely certain they'd be very interested to hear about an attorney coaching people on manipulation tactics. She left without another word, practically fleeing. Vanessa stared at me in shock. You recorded us? I recorded someone in my own home discussing how to psychologically manipulate me. Turns out that's not just legal, it's probably the smartest decision I made that entire day. Friday brought the bargaining stage in full force. Vanessa had clearly spent Thursday night doing some genuine thinking. She found me in the kitchen Friday morning, reviewing the moving company estimates on my laptop over coffee. I've been thinking seriously about what you said, she started. About showing you who I really am. Have you? I circled the lower estimate up with my pen, then made a note about the second company coming that afternoon. I realized that I've been letting other people influence me way too much. Not just Olivia, but my mother, my sisters, even social media influences. I lost track of what I actually wanted versus what I thought I should want. This was more genuine self-awareness than she'd shown in weeks, but it was also coming 3 days too late. That's good insight, I said, and I meant it genuinely. You should definitely explore that in therapy. But what if I can prove that I've changed? What if I can show you that I'm not the person who tried to manipulate you? I looked at her directly. How exactly would you prove that? I could come to Seattle with you. We could start completely fresh, away from all the negative influences here. Start fresh by following me to a city where you know absolutely no one, have no job, and no support system. I shook my head. That sounds like dependence, not genuine change. She was quiet for a moment. Then what would convince you that I'm different? Nothing. The word hung in the air between us. That's what you don't understand, I said. This isn't about convincing me or proving anything. This is about the fundamental fact that when you thought you could get away with it, you chose manipulation over honesty. You chose to follow advice from someone who views relationships as power games instead of having a single real conversation with me. But people can change. People do change. Sure they can. But they change for themselves over time, through consistent actions, not through grand gestures after they get caught. I finished my coffee and stood up. I hope you do change. I genuinely hope you figure out who you are when you're not getting advice from toxic friends or trying to control situations through manipulation. What if I already know? What if losing you made me realize exactly who I want to be? Then be that person for yourself. Not for me, not to win me back, but because that's who you actually are, authentically. She started crying, but these tears seemed different, less desperate and manipulative, more genuinely sad. I really did love you, she whispered. I know you did, in your way. I picked up my phone. But love without respect isn't enough, and you can't respect someone you're actively trying to manipulate. By Friday evening, I had quotes from both moving companies and knew exactly which one I'd be hiring for the job. Saturday came and went with an uneasy silence hanging over the apartment. Vanessa spent most of the day on the phone, with various family members. I could hear her voice through the walls, talking to her mother, then her sister, then her brother. By Saturday evening, they'd clearly all spoken to each other and formed a unified position about the situation. I spent the day finalizing moving logistics and confirming my Monday morning flight to Seattle for intensive house hunting. Sunday dinner at the Holloway house was usually something I genuinely enjoyed. Eleanor Holloway was an excellent cook, and Vincent told entertaining stories about his years as a contractor. Today, though, the atmosphere was distinctly different from the usual warmth. I'd driven separately in my own car. I wanted the freedom to leave when this conversation was finished. I grabbed my leather folder from the passenger seat, the one containing the transfer letter, my phone, and the transcript I'd spent Saturday evening creating from the recording. The tension was already thick when I walked in. "So you're the man who's apparently too good for family now," Vincent said as I walked into their living room. The whole family was assembled there: Vanessa's parents, her sister Cassandra, who worked as a nurse, her brother Tyler, who was an attorney at a corporate firm, and even Vanessa's grandmother, who rarely left her retirement community. Her presence told me everything about how seriously they were taking this intervention. I set my leather folder on the coffee table deliberately. Actually, I'm glad everyone's here. It saves me from having to repeat this conversation multiple times. Vanessa shot me a warning look from across the room, but I was way past caring about her comfort level. "So I understand there's been some confusion about why I'm relocating to Seattle," I began. "Let me clear that up for everyone." Eleanor jumped in immediately. "We know you got a job offer, Marcus, but leaving your wife over career advancement seems extreme." "You're absolutely right," I said. "It would be extreme if that's what was actually happening. But that's not the complete story, is it?" I looked directly at Vanessa, who had gone pale. 3 weeks ago, Vanessa announced she wanted a break from our marriage. What she didn't mention to any of you is that this wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was part of a calculated plan. "What are you talking about?" Cassandra asked, confusion clear in her voice. I pulled out my phone. "I'm talking about this conversation I recorded 3 weeks ago when Vanessa's friend Olivia Brennan came over to coach her on relationship manipulation tactics. For context, Olivia's a divorce attorney." The room went completely silent. "You recorded us?" Vanessa whispered, her eyes wide with panic. "I recorded someone in my own home discussing how to psychologically manipulate me. In Massachusetts, that's perfectly legal. One-party consent state." I looked around the room. Before I play this, I want to be clear. This recording was made in my home office. I wasn't eavesdropping. I came home early from the gym, and Olivia and Vanessa were in the living room having this conversation on speakerphone. I could hear every word clearly through my open office door. I made a conscious decision to document what I was hearing. I hit play. Olivia's voice filled the room, crystal clear and unmistakable. "Just call it a break and watch him fall apart. Men like Marcus need to feel needed. Take that away and he'll be begging to prove himself worthy." Then Vanessa's voice. "You really think this will work? Trust me. When he's desperate and promising to change everything, you'll have all the power. Then you can train him to be the husband you actually want." I let it play for about a minute, enough to establish the manipulation coaching clearly, then stopped it. The silence in the room was absolutely deafening. Vincent looked between me and his daughter. "Is this true?" Vanessa was crying now, but not the sympathetic tears she'd been using all week. These were tears of absolute humiliation. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she managed. "What wasn't supposed to be like what?" her grandmother asked sharply. "You trying to trick your husband?" "Olivia said it would make him appreciate me more," Vanessa sobbed. "So instead of talking to your husband like an adult," Tyler said, looking at his sister like he'd never seen her before, "you decided to play psychological mind games?" I pulled out the Seattle offer letter and set it on the coffee table next to my phone. "This is a regional director position with a 40% salary increase and comprehensive relocation package. It's the kind of opportunity most people work their entire careers for." I set the recording transcript next to the letter. "Your daughter tried to manipulate me into being a more grateful husband by threatening our marriage. When that backfired, because I already knew about the plan, she spent this week calling all of you to paint me as the villain for choosing career advancement." Eleanor picked up the transcript and started reading. Her expression changed completely as she absorbed the words. "The real question," I continued, "is what kind of person gets coached on how to psychologically manipulate their spouse then follows through with the plan when they think it'll work? Cassandra was staring at Vanessa in shock. You actually did this? You planned this entire thing? I was just trying to make him pay more attention, Vanessa said weakly. By pretending you wanted to leave him? Her grandmother shook her head. That's not how marriage works, honey. Tyler, the attorney, was reading the transcript now. Let me get this straight. Your friend Olivia Brennan, a divorce attorney, coached you on manipulation tactics? She said it would help, Vanessa whispered. Help destroy your marriage, apparently, Eleanor said quietly. I stood up and collected my documents. The movers come Wednesday. I fly to Seattle tomorrow to finalize housing. The job starts the following week. What about counseling? Eleanor asked. What about working through this? Work through what exactly? The fact that she tried to manipulate me or the fact that she got caught? I shook my head. Some lines once crossed can't be uncrossed. Vanessa looked around the room desperately. The family that had been ready to shame me was now looking at her like she was a stranger. Please, she whispered to me, don't leave like this. I'm not leaving like anything, I said calmly. I am accepting a promotion I've earned and starting a new chapter. You're the one who said you wanted a break. As I walked to my car, I could hear the family discussion erupting behind me. Not angry voices directed at me anymore, but confused, disappointed voices directed at her. Monday morning came early. My 7 o'clock flight to Seattle meant leaving by 5:30. I'd packed everything I needed for a week of intensive house hunting. Vanessa had insisted on driving me to the airport, and I'd agreed, though I wasn't entirely sure why. The car ride was mostly silent, the silence of two people who'd reached some understanding, even if it wasn't the one either had imagined 7 years ago. At the terminal drop-off, she finally spoke. What if I came to Seattle in a few months, after I've had time to work on myself? Would you consider starting over? I looked at her one last time. If you're going to work on yourself, do it for yourself. Don't do it with the goal of winning me back. That's just another form of manipulation. So that's it? 7 years of marriage, just over? 7 years ended 3 weeks ago, when you chose to follow Olivia's advice instead of having an honest conversation with your husband. I picked up my carry-on. The marriage you're mourning ended the moment you decided manipulation was acceptable. You're just realizing it now. I really did love you, she said, tears running down her face. I know. In your way. I opened the car door, but love without respect isn't enough. The week in Seattle was productive. By Tuesday, I'd seen 8 properties. By Thursday, I'd found a house in Queen Anne with a home office and a view of the Sound. I signed the lease Friday morning. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. Vanessa and I sorted through 7 years of belongings with mechanical efficiency. The movers came Wednesday. By Thursday afternoon, the truck was loaded and heading west. I followed Friday morning, driving the 1,000 miles with nothing but podcasts and the knowledge that every mile was taking me towards something better. 6 months later, I got an unexpected call from Tyler. Thought you should know what's been happening, he said. I'm listening. Vanessa's been in therapy twice a week since you left. Cut off all contact with Olivia completely. Got promoted at her job, moved to her own apartment. She seems like she's actually working on herself. Good for her, I said genuinely. I hope she builds a good life. Olivia, though, that's different. Word got out. The recording made its way around their social circle. She's basically been ostracized, lost several clients. There was an informal bar investigation. She moved to Portland to start over. I felt brief satisfaction, then moved on. Actions have consequences. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Despite changing my number, she'd tracked it down. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed you to know you were right about everything. I'm sorry for who I was and grateful for who I'm becoming. I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Some doors, once closed, need to stay closed. The next weekend, my girlfriend Natalie and I went hiking at Mount Rainier. Natalie was a data scientist, and I'd met her at a Seattle Analytics networking event 3 months after moving. We'd been together for 3 months now, and there was an ease to our relationship that 7 years with Vanessa had never achieved. She communicated directly. No games, just honest conversations. As we hiked, she asked about my previous marriage for the first time. Do you ever regret how it ended? I regret that it had to end at all, I said honestly, but I don't regret refusing to accept manipulation as normal. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. What if she's genuinely changed? Then she'll build a good life with someone else. Change doesn't entitle anyone to a second chance with people they've already shown they're willing to betray. As we hiked back, I realized I hadn't thought about Vanessa in weeks. Not because I was avoiding memories, but because I was genuinely focused on building something new and authentic. Olivia's manipulation coaching had destroyed her reputation in legal circles. Vanessa, from what Tyler told me, actually did seem to transform herself. Got promoted, developed healthier friendships, stopped seeking validation through games. But that was her journey to take. Mine led to Seattle, to a career I loved, to a relationship built on honesty, and to the knowledge that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst impulses. Some stories don't end with reconciliation. Sometimes they end with two people going their separate ways to become who they're meant to be. And sometimes that's exactly the ending everyone needed.